All right, welcome to my channel. This is Amanda Panacea, and you are watching the Healer Revolution. Now, my goal is to empower everyone to be their own best health advocate, to have the knowledge, the awareness, and also the belief that your body can handle things, that you can trust what your body is doing, and to not live in that fear state of, oh my gosh, something's wrong, I have to figure it out and fix it. So today we are going to be talking about mold and mold illness, because this is something that is near and dear to my heart because of what I went through. And it was really the kickstart of my dark night of the soul years, which of course was blessing in disguise, because when you come out the other side, you have a newfound understanding of yourself, as well as shifted belief and understanding of how the world is, how other people are, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to be treated. And mold illness is something that will completely rock your world to that point. And so before we get started, if you could please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be pumping out videos like this every single week, and I would really love if you help support me. So number one, when you are exposed to mold, your immune system will start to become suppressed. Now, in some people, you may start to notice random infections, especially things like sinus infections, UTIs, yeast infections are big. Mold is immune suppressive, so we're going to start to have symptoms of candida. And so that is one of the biggest things to look out for, as well as more allergies. So mold can colonize up in the sinuses, can colonize in the gut. So if you have more gut symptoms, more allergies, chronic stuffiness, more food sensitivities, you start to feel like you have histamine intolerance now, you get red and fleshy and itchy. If you have any type of itchy rash, all of these are surefire signs that it could be mold. Now, I don't want to scare you. Again, my goal is to help you not live in fear. So I want to talk about all of the ways that you can actually support your body, even if you're still being exposed to mold, because mold is a part of our environment. It's a part of our world, and we will never escape it. I still live in South Florida. I still live in a building that I'm sure has mold. We have had leaks here since I was sick, and I did not get sick. People will also say, big mold advocates will say, you have to leave everything behind. You can't take anything with you that had the mold on it that made you sick. I'm living proof that that is also not true. My boyfriend still has a lot of his furniture, his computer that he brought from that area. Now, would it have made my recovery quicker? I don't know, if I was no longer being exposed like that. But here I am a couple years later, and I am better than ever. So number one, if you suspect that it could be mold, you're going to want to get a bee propolis diffuser. I have another video about how to use it, how it works, why it's so important, but this is not very expensive, and it will help clean your air so you're no longer breathing in mycotoxins or allowing those mycotoxins to land on your skin and be absorbed that way. The second thing you're going to want to do is to get some sort of test in your house. If you're renting, sorry, you're out of luck, but chances are your landlord is not going to do much in this area. But it doesn't hurt to ask. If you suspect mold, maybe they'll have somebody come out. Always check with that first. If you are the owner, the gold standard is the ERMI test or the HERTSME. These are both going to test a dust sample, which is more accurate because mold and dust are like magnets for each other. So when mycotoxins fly through the air, they land and the dust, and it will be BFFs. And then you can also, these are a little bit more expensive, but they're going to test for the most common types of molds that are known to make people sick. And then the second type of test you can get is by a company called Immunolytics, which is an air sample test. Now, it's not as accurate because not all the molds is always flying through your air, but you can put it on the ground to make it a little bit more accurate. You can even shake maybe a pillow over top of it and see what molds come up. And you can, they'll create also a report that and go over it with you that'll help understand which types of molds are which and which ones are more serious. So for example, things like Aspergillus, Stachybotrys, Penicillium, these are all molds that are well known to cause illnesses in humans. And so you want to make sure that you don't have incredibly high levels in your home, because that would indicate a water damage somewhere that you would want to find. Again, not to be fear-based, because if this happens, the most important thing, if you do discover that there is mold or water damage, is not to panic. When you panic like that and you teach your body that we are not safe here, then you are going to be constantly in that state of fight or flight. Fear is the #1 driver of fight or flight, because that is survival. Without fear, we would just hang out till we got eaten by the bear. You know, like the fear is going to keep your body perpetually from detoxing molds. It's going to prevent you from digesting your food. And the continuous state of fight or flight is going to not have you healing and repairing. High levels of cortisol are breaking down tissue. So do not panic. Get out or think rationally, get a B propolis diffuser, and it's going to be okay. Now, the second thing that's really important when it comes to healing from mold is to support all of your drainage pathways and all of the organs of elimination. So that's going to be pooping, peeing, your liver, your kidney, your sweating and your skin, breathing even. You want to make sure that all of these different pathways are open and flowing. So constipation is going to keep that broken down mycotoxins inside. So our liver is the most important thing here, because it's breaking down fat soluble toxins, which do include mycotoxins. And it's constantly doing this. But when we live in an environment where we are constantly being exposed to that, the liver has to work extra hard to move through those phases. There's 2.5 phases of the liver. And phase 1 actually breaks things down to make it even more reactive and unstable. So those fat soluble molecules become unstable reactive molecules. And it's not until phase 2, when they get paired through certain processes like glucuronidation or sulfation, and then they turn into water soluble molecules, where we can easily get rid of them through the kidney or dumped into bile and moved out of the colon, or out of the skin sometimes as well. However, when you're moving things out of the skin, that's usually a sign that your other drainage pathways are struggling or clogged, and then you can start to get rashes. So for me, the #1 sign I was being exposed to mold was itching, itching, itching. I immediately became itchy. My eyes got red and itchy. My throat was itchy, stuffy. My skin got itchy, and eventually that led to something called mast cell activation, which was basically like I couldn't tolerate anything. Everything made me worse. I just got worse and worse and worse and worse for months, and had rashes pretty much all over my entire body. So you want to keep those areas of elimination open, especially the liver, because that's what's breaking them down to make them water soluble. Now, there's a lot of products on the market out there. You really want to work with somebody if you're to the point of having symptoms, because there is a way to support the drainage pathways. If you're constipated, you wouldn't necessarily go straight to the liver or the lymph, because you want to make sure what the liver and the lymph is moving out, that the colon can move out too. So there's a drainage funnel, and you want to start at the bottom of that funnel, which is the colon. Now, the third part to healing from mold is going to be to address the sensitivity to mold itself. Now, there's said to be some genetic factors for why people are more sensitive. One of them is the HLA gene. But I didn't have that gene. I've had my full epigenetics ran. Some other SNPs related to that would be related to the liver, because the liver has to break those mycotoxins down. So you can have SNPs in certain pathways that may slow down your ability to break mold down and move it out of the body. But then the other big thing is to do things that help to balance that immune system. So oftentimes mold and parasites will go hand in hand, because the reason you may be so sensitive to mold is because of a long-term parasitic infection. which is something I think made my mold sensitivity worse. And this is because we have a branch of the immune system called Th2. Th stands for T helper cell. And T helper cell 2 branch of the immune system is designed to send out soldier cells to kill parasites. And when you look at your lab work, it's something called eosinophils, and they are involved in killing parasites. They're also involved in mast cell degranulation and asthma, which is like our allergic response to things. So the more eosinophils we're sending out, the more we are going to have, the more allergic symptoms we're going to have. They should not be above a 3. If they are above a 3, that can indicate parasites. And now, so when I was sick, mine went all the way up to 28, which is just astronomical, but they were at like a 6 or a 7 for many years before I ever got sick. So I believe I had untreated parasite infections that were driving all the allergies I had my entire life. And then my immune system was also at that point where when I got exposed to mold, it was so much more sensitive and all those mast cells degranulated so much more quicker as well, because I already had so many eosinophils that were being produced and pumped out. And so this can correlate with your IgE receptors, which are those allergy antibodies. So many people will do like prick tests, or they'll get blood work and they'll look for how many IgE reactions. I think when I got that done, it was like 2000 or something. It was like big red letters, like very allergic to everything. And so that's an immune system problem. That is a Th2 branch of the immune system being too dominant, too active. And so there's tons of things out there that can help bring more balance to your immune system. And one of those might be parasite work. But again, you want to work with someone because you have to open those drainage pathways. You have to have your cells able to, your cells having to make the energy enough to do something like parasite cleanse. So there is a calculated movement to all of this. You don't just want to jump right in to the biggest, hardest thing like a parasite cleanse or ozone injections, which can hurt you. And so that brings us to our fourth thing. And that is to work on the nervous system always, 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 because another big driver of this hypersensitivity, well, allergies, allergic to everything, is your nervous system being very hypervigilant. So your nervous system is always trying to keep you safe, and your nervous system is in charge of your immune system. Now, your immune system listens for directions from your nervous system. So don't go chasing, killing toxins when you can be working on nervous system regulation. Now, your nervous system is always trying to keep you safe. And unfortunately, what that can mean is we don't know what that is. That made us sick once before. We're going to react. We're going to react. We're going to react. Nothing is safe. We've been bombarded with molds for the last year in this apartment. So now we have just become like hypersensitive to everything. And that is what happened to me. That is what is like mast cell activation, and then histamine intolerance as well. Molds can be another reason why your body is overproducing histamines. It can also block some of those phases of the liver that help to break down histamine. And some of the nutrients that are really important here. When our body's really stressed like that, we're going to burn through things like vitamin C, which support the liver. We're going to burn through things like magnesium, which is required for 42% of all the enzymatic reactions that happen in the body. We're going to need more potassium and sodium, and low potassium can also really drive up having a lot of allergies as well. So this is very multifactorial. But one thing in your control is that nervous system. So being able to self-soothe, not panic, doing things that help to activate your vagal tone, your vagus nerve, which relaxes everything. It lowers the heart rate. Anything that makes you feel creative, at peace, calm, figure out the things in your life that you love to do. Try and tap into those things as much as you can, because a good nervous system regulation is going to help keep you from getting more sick. And so I referenced that after we talked about herxing, because when you are so afraid to take something, when you are so afraid of everything, when your body is so hypervigilant, your immune system is so hypervigilant, the chances of anything you do to help recover causing negative reactions or Herxheimer reactions or herxing is going to go up. So you want to really, really be able to self-soothe and get yourself out of that fight or flight response before you go into doing supplements, protocols, and working on all that. And so then lastly, bringing us to the fifth thing that's really important for healing from mold, and that is going to be all of your belief system. So this is kind of also the tail end of the nervous system, but this is like all our subconscious beliefs and how we believe the world to work. So one of the things that I really had to work on is what I like to call mold PTSD. And this is like, once I was exposed to mold, I could not stop thinking about it everywhere, right? I live in Miami. There's mold everywhere here. And after you think that you should be afraid of that, because before this, I lived in Florida my whole life. I never got sick. I wasn't that afraid of mold. I mean, I was a little bit, I knew what it could do, but it had never happened to me. So I wasn't afraid. After I got sick, I became so afraid of it that everywhere I went, I was constantly worried about having reactions and getting sick again. And this is just part of what mold does to you. Like, I was not immune to it. Nobody's immune to mold PTSD, because when we breathe in that mold, it goes into a part of the nose right here where your olfactory nerve, that smelling nerve, then goes back into the brain where the limbic system is, which is where the hypothalamus is, which is where we're detecting danger or not. So all of reality is being filtered through our unique set of experiences, and everything bad that's ever happened to us is at the forefront of our memories. And then we filter all of the sensory data through our brain to determine if this situation is dangerous or not. And so with mycotoxins, we don't necessarily, we're not aware that we're breathing them in, but if we're constantly in fear of it and trying to stay on top of it and be very hypervigilant about it, then our brain is as well. And so when we're in that chronic state of hypervigilance, rest and repair, digestion, detox, all of those things are put on the back burner. So when I say belief work, subconscious work is really important, it's important to understand which set of beliefs from ourselves, from our parents, from society are the ones that are putting us into this box that caused us to get sick in the first place. And so for me, this was a belief of like, I have a lot of allergies. This was a belief of I'm sensitive. This was a belief of, nobody can help me. I have to do everything myself. And you can see how these beliefs will play out in how sick you get, how well you're able to recover. A lot of people I work with have the belief that I'm never going to get better, or I'm unique, I'm special, and nobody's going to figure out what's wrong with me because I'm so different. So that like feeling of feeling alone. And all of this comes from childhood. We're very selfish as children. And so we don't have the analytical capacity to understand that like that person did this for their own reason. We always think it's about ourselves. So when we start to think as children, like something's wrong with me, or, oh, I wonder why they did that to me, it must be my fault. We carry those belief systems with us. And so this is why the last step of mold recovery is just deep, deep inner transformation work. And, doing this on your own through a program with practitioners. I've worked with lots and lots of different people as the practitioner and on the other side of it, because that community is also really important. And having a community of people that's able to lift you up to be the person you want to be and not the sick person, and not talk about symptoms all the time, and not talk about, how shitty everything is, but the type of people who are going to be future oriented and allow you to grow and thrive is going to be really helpful for your recovery. So these are my 5 recommendations on mold illness, healing from mold. Please check out my website if you're interested in working with me or doing any of my programs. My website is thehealerrevolution.com. And of course, like and subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos like this every week. Also, my podcast, I almost forgot. You can also listen to the Healer Revolution podcast, where you'll hear transformation stories and stories of recovery from people who healed from things you should never be able to heal from, according to Western docs. So I hope this was helpful. And as always, have a beautiful day. Thanks.